and welcome to the Oregon Business Matters podcast, brought to you by Oregon Business and Industry, your statewide Chamber of Commerce. At Oregon Business Matters, we focus on insights, issues, and initiatives that impact Oregonians' shared prosperity and the state's economic health. I'm Angela Wilhelms, President and CEO of OBI, and your host here at Oregon Business Matters. And today, as the busy holiday season ramps up, I'm chatting with Ned Ford from iconic Southern Oregon brand Harry and David. Ned is the Chief Operations Officer for gourmet food and gift baskets for Harry and David's parent company, 1-800-Flowers. And in that role, he oversees Harry and David's headquarters and the astounding operation they have in Medford. Harry and David was actually the final stop of this year's OBI Manufacturing and Innovation Roadshow in October, which was Manufacturing Month. And we're highlighting their work on the Oregon Business Matters podcast now as we head into, as I mentioned, that very busy season when gift baskets are flying through and out of the facility and landing on doorsteps across the country, sharing some wonderful Oregon wares. Ned has been with Harry and David in Medford since 2017, and we are grateful for his time today. So Ned, thank you for joining me, and wow, what an impressive operation.
Great. Glad to be here, and great opportunity to talk about Harry and David.
Yeah, which we love to do. So Harry and David enjoys tremendous brand recognition. I mean, everybody I know in Oregon knows the company, and they know them as a mail order icon. But there probably aren't a lot of people who actually know the origin of the company. So why don't you just start by setting the stage for us with a little bit of that history, who were Harry and David and how the company came about and ultimately became a pioneer in what they do.
Great. Yeah, glad. It's an interesting story, and it's one that I don't think that if anybody really could replicate in today's modern world. But if you go back in time, start with kind of the date of 1910. Samuel Rosenberg sold a hotel in Seattle, Washington, and converted that and bought 240 acres of real estate here in Southern Oregon's Rogue Valley, and named it Bear Creek Orchards. And so that was the genesis of the original orchards that were down here. He unfortunately passed away, and it went to his two sons, Harry and David, who eventually became Harry and David Homes, right? And so they took over the business. They both had studied agriculture at Cornell University. And when they came here in the valley, they looked and wanted to specialize in growing Camise pears. And that is the Royal Riviera, the iconic Royal Riviera pear that we have. They saw a market for it. It was good for exporting. You saw it a lot in Europe, at grand hotels and restaurants in the European market, really caters to that upper echelon of customer. And to bring that, two gentlemen who are very marketing savvy, they named it the Royal Riviera pear. And so they started off that business. But it really wasn't until 1934, if you could flash forward a little bit. They had been testing out in Seattle and in San Francisco some different business models on the pears. Obviously, they were in the commercial pear business, but they wanted to pivot. And so Harry, believe it or not, in 1934 this was the auspicious trip to New York City. He took 15 boxes of Camise pears, the Royal Riviera pears, to New York City, and had the happenstance of meeting and creating a connection with a fellow by the name G. Lynn Sumner, who was an ad man in New York City. And so out of that, they had sent off on handwritten notes of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel to several of the industry titans there in New York City. And soon, as a result of that, they pitched their ideas about gifting pears, particularly on business gifts, if you will. And soon, that just took off. And from that fateful day, with that 15 boxes of pears, really kicked off what was the modern age of Harry and David. And over time, they became sort of this, premier direct marketer of fruits and food gifts, and specifically the Royal Riviera pear. And that's the basis for this business for the 91 years that we have been in business. And so the many different iterations of Harry and David, but in 2014, Harry and David was bought by 1-800-Flowers. And since then, we got enveloped into the gifting platform of 1-800-Flowers. Today, we operate as part of the food group 8 facilities throughout the United States, for Harry and David specifically, we have 3 full-time facilities and 1 part-time facilities that we operate during the holiday season. The campus here in Medford, Oregon, anchored with over 1 million square feet under roof, and 1,800 acres of planted orchards that are dedicated to the Harry and David brand. And so, it's amazing to think through all that time, 91 years, of taking what is a Camise pear, which is a very difficult pear to grow, but it's the Christmas pear, and one that ripens over the fall and the cool nights. And so by the time you get to Christmas time, that holiday time period, it's at the peak of its ripeness and great for gifting. And that's been sort of the piece of this business. Today we are still one of the oldest catalog mail order companies in the nation. We've got the iconic Royal Riviera pear, but they also, over those many 91 years, created many other gifts. The iconic Fruit of the Month Club, for instance. Many people have probably heard of that. But there's a lot of others, since that time, over the 91 years. We've also created a lot of other avenues for our business, including Harry and David Fine Meats. We have Bear Creek Nuts and Stacks. We actually are our own. We have a Harry and David winery that is an adjunct to our business that we do. Vital Choice Seafoods, Wolferman's Bakery, Scharfenberger Chocolates, Cheryl's Cookies, Popcorn Factory, and 1-800baskets.com. So our business is quite diversified since the first box of pears went out the door to our customers. And it's really neat to see sort of all this come together. As you know, Angela, we spent a lot of time over the summer preparing baking products, growing products. We had the harvest in September, and right now we're in the throes of building a lot of gifts that will all get shipped out in December for our holiday season.
Yeah, I just want to underscore a couple of things that you mentioned. It's such a fascinating history, both the formation and then the growth and evolution. And you mentioned 1 million, was it 1 million square feet under roof, plus
Yes,
the
yeah.
orchards. I've been down there a few times now, and I don't know how anyone can be there without getting their full 10,000 steps a day and walking around. It's pretty extraordinary, and I think a lot of people don't really appreciate the size and scope of it. But also, you mentioned other brands that you're affiliated with, and one of them is, company Scharfenberger that grew up down the road in Ashland. And so
Correct,
can you
yeah.
talk about that relationship a little bit?
Yeah, we've had Harry and David Fine Chocolates for a while, and we have a candy kitchen here in Medford as part of our operation. And so those are the iconic truffles that a lot of people have, and many different flavors. And in fact, as you were here, we bring in tank wagons full of chocolate each week to make all those truffles and all the chocolate confections that we have. We had an opportunity a little over a year ago that Scharfenberger Chocolates came up for sale, which is located right down the road from Medford in Ashland, Oregon. And so we took that opportunity. We procured it. It is actually 2 brands. It's Scharfenberger Chocolates and Dagoba Chocolates. Scharfenberger was originally out of the Bay Area, and it was an artisanal chocolate maker. And in fact, they were one of the first to coin and put onto their products the percentage of cacao. If you go and you see dark chocolate and the percentage of cacao that's in each one of the chocolate bars, they were one of the first to actually do that and really develop a business that was bean to bar. We were really blessed to be able to go in and get that partnership with the Scharfenberger chocolate. And now we have a full line. We were able to put out a new line of truffles with the Scharfenberger chocolates. And this year we have a few more new products that we'll be launching as part of that overall brand. But to put it in perspective, another capability that's within our wheelhouse now down in Ashland, we have the ability to take nibs and actually grind those down into chocolate liqueur and then actually mold those into the final product. So, really kind of rounds us out in the chocolate confection area, and we're really excited. And the chocolate is, if you've had a chance to taste it, is out of this world. It's they have really, refined their recipes and sourcing beans from around the world, and the outcome is just really an exquisite chocolate.
Yeah, it's it is so interesting to think about the history of each of those little pieces of the puzzle, let alone the overall Harry and David history. So thank you for taking a little digression there for us, just because,
Yeah.
Working with Oregon companies is something we're big fans of here at OBI, not surprisingly.
Exactly.
So you've touched on it a little bit with some of the other brands, but Can you I'm going to come back to the pears, but I want to just have you take a second to really talk a little bit about some of the other products that go into these gift boxes and towers. I mean, literally towers that are a couple of feet tall in some cases. Just, what are the offerings that people can order or expect to see if they get a Harry and David gift?
Yeah, I think if you look at through, the many iterations of gifts that we have, and we have quite a bit, but if I kind of hit on the Harry and David ones, the package gifts really are our top sellers if you think about that. This is where you have food paired in a basket, a box, or even to your point earlier about a tower. And so we make a lot. Our Tower of Treats is one of our big, it was formed, many, many years ago and continues to be a top seller for us even to this day. And interestingly enough, our wine business, as we talk about, is really built off of, when you get that package gift that we call it the Tower of Treats, adding on that extra bottle of wine to that really rounds out that gift for a lot of our customers. And so that has really been the genesis of our growth in our wine business. But we also have savory foods and snacks, and those do very well for a lot of folks who order that during the holiday time period. But there's a lot of other areas too. We've mentioned fruit gifts, Fruit of the Month Club. We source fruit from around the world, mostly here in the United States, for 12 months out of the year. We have floral and gift plants. We have baked goods. We have a full bakery here in Medford that we make a lot of our product. We are, touched on earlier the chocolates with Scharfenberger and Harry and David Fine Chocolates, but we also have the iconic Moose Munch, which you saw us make down here in Medford. We make, a little over 4 million pounds here in Medford alone. We also have other gourmet foods, charcuterie and different things. And then one of the interesting thing, we don't have as large of a retail footprint as we once did, but out of that experience with our retail was a line of pantry essentials, and really one of our top selling items, which was our pepper and onion relish. And those continue to do very well in our portfolio. Folks buy that a lot throughout the year. It's not just a holiday piece. But ultimately, it's that package gift which really outsells a lot of other things. Each year, you can see those same products do very well. And so to think, a product has that lasting effect over the many years of this company is just a tribute to the simplicity, but also the quality of the products that we sell.
So one of the things that is so striking when you're down at the facility is the team, the people, and the scale of the operation and what that requires as far as scaling up workforce. And so can you just talk a little bit about how Harry and David thinks about its workforce, and then also how you manage in such a dynamic and scalable and seasonal business, if you will?
A lot of folks who come into here, I often quip and I say to them, says the good news is we're vertically integrated. The bad news is I'm vertically integrated. It is a very complex model, and I don't believe anybody in today's modern world would create a company of vertically integrated such as we are like that. And so we are very unique in that regards. Not only do the manufacturing and the orchards and everything else, but we also have the professionals. So we do product design and development. We have our own package engineering who spend a lot of time. We have call center operation or service support operations. We have marketing and advertising. But as we transition over into the operational front, which is where my involvement gets involved, 1,800 acres of planted orchards here in the Rogue Valley that we own and operate ourselves. But we also have manufacturing. Like I mentioned earlier, we have chocolate making. We also have a candy kitchen that produces, the Moose Munch, has a full service bakery that produces, upwards of almost 400 SKUs of different products that go through that bakery. We have packaging. We go through assembly to make all of our products, gift baskets, gift boxes, et cetera. And then we have a full warehousing, distribution, and fulfillment arm. Obviously, as we own the last mile piece of this, we have our partners such as FedEx, where we ship out millions of packages in the month of December. And so, it's a well-oiled machine. Everybody, it's kind of rinse and repeat each and every year. Each year does bring its own challenges, but, with the advent of being able to control the different stages from the orchards all the way to the fulfillment, we can reduce a lot of the costs associated with, a lot of folks having their hands in the pot. It minimizes a lot of the risk that we have in terms of supply chain disruptions. So, we're just less dependent on external suppliers, if you will. And because of that, we have direct oversight on a lot of those processes, that also allows us to hold a higher bar for our quality. And so one of the things that Harry & David has always been known for is the quality of its products, both pears as well as the goods that they have. And so we spend a lot of time making sure, and we've had some pretty rough years in terms of, like take pears, for instance, when we had the drought many years ago. And so we work very hard to make sure that we still put out the best quality product to our customers. In all of this, the vertical integration that we have allows us to continue to grow, manufacture, and ship products from multiple facilities, but particularly here in Medford. It's our largest facility in the network. It does everything that we have. And it's by far, like you mentioned earlier, it's the people who make this run. And you can see that in the products that they produce each and every day. This is a wonderful organization here on the ground in Medford. To your point, we do have a robust seasonal hiring program, and those folks who come in and make these products each and every year just do a tremendous job.
And you do, one of the things I think is so interesting too is for the number of people you're hiring just on a routine annualized basis. You have a lot of FTE, and then obviously you have the spike as the season heats up, but you have your own internal recruitment and training operation. A lot of companies might think about getting help with that outside, but you have an entire kind of center there dedicated to this recruitment, retention, training effort. And can you just talk about that for a quick second to give people a sense of what that team is doing within the Harry & David organization, and how they're helping support all of those logistical and production and operations you talked about?
It's a great story. We don't use temp agencies, third-party agencies for our seasonal workforce. Everything is homegrown. We have a fantastic HR team who goes out, puts in a plan, and executes a seasonal hiring strategy. But it's not just there. There's as we think about it, it's an ecosystem. Obviously, Harry & David being here in the Valley for 91 years is sort of iconic. And there's, when you come here in the Valley and you talk to folks, it's hard to not run into somebody who's either worked for Harry & David or has had a relative or a close friend who has worked with Harry & David at some point in their past. And so, part of that is investing heavily in the community. And so, that attracts and retains employees who want to work for a company that values giving back to the community. In terms of year-round employment, yeah, we do employ hundreds of folks in our main Medford campus. But, the holiday push is really a big piece of our puzzle. And so we bring in, several hundreds of folks for that holiday time period as well. We ramp up and it takes a lot of hands to pull all this stuff together. It's a fairly quick ramp. I always tell people, a lot of our gifts have pears. And so the start of our season is really dictated by Mother Nature. And so I can't start building things until the pears are ready, which happens at the end of August, beginning of September. And so, not only do they hire all these folks, but it's a fairly short ramp, and we bring in, hundreds of people in order to make it a workable manufacturing, solution for us. But to your point, it's all our own team that does this, and each year, brings its own challenges. But knock on wood, we got a great season this year. Our workforce is strong. And that's a tribute also here to Medford. It's a great community. The Rogue Valley is robust, and I think there's a lot of efforts that go into making the community what it is. But we're just blessed to be here.
Yeah, that's terrific. The amount that the company has done over the years for families across the valley is exceptional. So definitely worth noting. I wanna talk a little bit about some of the products, just to give people a little more sense of scale and what we're talking here. They're probably catching on just given we talked about with the footprint and things like that. But okay, so how many pears do you guys harvest every year?
So, Mother Nature, I have found.
No, fair point. Fair point.
She will dictate, and I've seen quite a swing since I'm, it's funny, you mentioned on the lead in, I've been here since 2017, which is, in comparison to a lot of the folks here on campus is a rookie. There are a lot of folks who've been here for a lot of years, and they've seen it come and go. And so I would say that, on average, we're harvesting, call it between 10 and 13,000 tons of gross of Camise pears. We also harvest, peaches as part of our overall product offering, and then we also grow Bosc pears. But Camise is really the largest piece of the 1,800 acres that we have. And so this year, I think what I would call a more average year for us. We had good water. Water is obviously one of the bigger things that we pay attention to. When we had the drought a couple of years ago, that number was down substantially. And so it's one of the things that we're very concerned with as we partner up with our local irrigation districts in the policies around how we use really what is a constrained resource in our irrigation water. But this year is a good year. We've got good pears. They're coming in. We're grading them now and putting them into gifts. And so far, we've started shipping this month in October. And so far, I've only had good comments from our customers of the quality and the taste.
As one of those customers, I will echo that. Fabulous. In fact, I took a box of pears with me to Colorado to give to someone I was there doing a little bit of work with. And as soon as I pulled the box halfway out of my backpack and they saw the box and the branding, their eyes lit up and they knew immediately. They said, "Are those Royal Riviera pears?" I said, "They sure are."
Exactly.
So it was
Yep.
good. They knew. Okay, let's talk about another product, Moose Munch.
Yes.
Also partial to the Moose Munch, not gonna lie. How much Moose Munch do you make a year?
Let's talk Medford here specifically, and so that operation runs throughout the year, and so it doesn't stop. There's a few shutdowns that we do, but it'll make over 4 million pounds of moose munch, and we make a lot of different varieties, over 15 flavors in the season. As we go through, it's a neat product. As folks who come in and can see the process as they make the moose munch, they see it fascinating. It's like I think someone said this, it's got a lot of very interesting. It's got butter, sugar, caramel, all these different pieces, which really goes to make such a great tasting product here. Now, we also produce some of our moose munch in a facility in Illinois, but this is sort of the heart and soul of the moose munch production. Like I said, over 4 million pounds.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, and I encourage anybody who hasn't done it, if you are in the area, to take one of their public tours, because you can see inside the candy kitchen and the bakery and the Moose Munch room, if you will, and it is fascinating to watch these processes unfold, and you really get a sense of the diversity and the both simplicity and complexity all at once of what's going on there. It's
Absolutely.
really a thing of beauty. What about fruitcakes? How many fruitcakes do you make
Oh,
a year in Medford?
we make quite a bit, and so it's one of those things that we talk about it a lot. There are several iconic products in our offering. Baklava is one, but fruitcakes was another one. It's funny when we go into talking about products. I often come in and I'm always challenged to make things more efficiently. And I made the dumb decision one time to ask the question of, should we be outsourcing our fruitcakes? And I think at the time someone looked at me and says that may be a career limiting decision if you want to go down that route. So it's a very iconic product as we go through there. But we make hundreds and thousands of these fruitcakes throughout the year, and it really still today, as a matter of fact, is still a great product for the holiday season.
Well, what I love about that story about you dabbling with the idea of potentially outsourcing it's one small pointed example of the passion that the workers at Harry and David have for what they do, and the quality that they know
Absolutely.
they're putting into it, and they don't want someone else in charge of that. They want to know that what they're giving to the customers is what they're making, with their quality, their hands, and it's great.
Absolutely. To your point, there's a lot of those different products that are like that, and so people do take pride in everything they do. That's one of the value propositions that really has kept Harry and David in business over the 91 years is that attention to detail in those quality and those recipes that were formed many years ago, still today still resonate.
Yeah. Well, we only have a little bit of time left, and OBI does what we do, so it would be a little weird if I got through this entire interview without asking you to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and opportunities you see on the horizon, whether it's policy or the landscape here in Oregon as a successful and long-standing business. You mentioned water. I know that's something that's very important to you as an agricultural operation. But what else is on your mind, or dive into the water issue a little more? No pun intended.
Overall, this is a very unique business, and we've done tours of a lot of folks and invited folks down here to Medford to kind of see our operation. I had the Oregon Department of Agriculture down here recently, and we were talking and just eye-opening. Our business is very unique in that, we don't produce pears that go into a commercial market. We produce pears that go into a gift. And so just thinking through as we evaluate the economic impact of, our agricultural operations here in the Valley, our numbers not necessarily reported within, the ODA, facts and figures. Our business is coded as retail, and so our pears go into a product that's sold directly to consumers, and that is brought in. And so as we sit down, it's about education and understanding our business. I like to tell people that the pear is critical to our operation. Without the pear, there really isn't a need here in Medford. Pears go into 2/3 of our gifts. It is the underpinning and the foundation of Harry & David. It was what this business was founded on. And so we do spend a lot of time talking about agriculture and what we want to do in the future, and making sure that, we create the environment here in Medford to support a thriving business that is unique and one that we should be proud of. I think that is the big thing in for policymakers, to invest time to understand our business, our workforce, even our community as we go through. And I know you and I have talked about this, but sometimes well-intentioned changes in the laws or regulations can have unintended consequences, particularly in the agricultural space. Our tie back to the hundreds of thousands, the hundreds of people that we have in our operation are directly tied to that pear. So as we make decisions about agriculture that can affect that, you're having a direct impact on those jobs here in the Valley. How do we make sure that they better understand and know our business, so that as they're sitting down and developing new legislation, new rules, and everything else, they just understand kind of what the outcomes are, and how do we partner with those leaders so that the underlying goals are achieved without layering on new burden and cost as we go through there. I think overall, when our business thrives, I think our state thrives. And I think, our, policymakers across the way should be thoughtful in how we grow our business sector. This drives revenue for the state, local governments, and community. And ultimately, as we talked about having a vertically integrated operation, it's about everything has to happen, between agriculture, the manufacturing, how we hire people in the Valley, even transportation in and out of the Valley. I think a thriving community requires an entire ecosystem of businesses that rely on each other as part of that. And so, as you point out, water is an important piece of our overall strategy. And so we have partnered, like I said, with our three, our major irrigation districts to help take what is, I think, a constrained resource, and we better use it for the value of the Valley as we go through there. I think there are some great people who are working on our irrigation districts and making some forward-thinking approaches to how we use that water. And I think we want to continue and partner with those as we go forward. And then, the last thing I will say is, I think another big piece of Harry & David's part is our part within the community. We partner with business community as part of our overall strategy, right? This is, our pathway to make sure that we have a healthy relationship with the community. But, this is a long haul. We've been here for 91 years. We've been part of the community, and we hope to be part of the community, I think, for another 90 plus years going forward, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's great and well said. We talk about that ecosystem a lot. We talk about the need to have healthy private sector businesses of all sizes in all parts of this state, and we often talk about the need, as you mentioned, to allow the private sector into the conversation, to partner with policymakers to help avoid the unintended consequences from implementation issues or administrative issues or things that aren't even moving goals forward. They're just making it harder and more expensive to comply, which in turn means money being spent on that rather than reinvested in the company and its people. So well said. And
yeah,
thank you.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up, I want to get to what might be the most important question right now, which is, where can customers go to order a Harry & David gift pack for their loved ones during the upcoming holidays?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of areas, but ultimately it's harryanddavid.com. And so, if you think over the 91 years, this company's been through a lot of evolutions, from starting off with a mail order catalog that went across the country. That's still a large part of our overall business. We do take online orders into our call center as well, through the catalog. But I think as we move into the modern age, we also, have also been on some of the marketplaces. So this year we're new on Amazon and the Walmart marketplaces, if you will. Ultimately we want to be where the customers are, and we've expanded our online footprint to new marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart. We also sell on other, I think we have some products on Costco.com as well. And then if you look at the brick and mortar footprint, we have the Harry and David Country Village here in Medford, Oregon. We also have a store in Huntington, New York, and looking at possibly expanding some of those footprints in the years to come. We also have in our holiday footprint, we'll have new holiday pop-up shops that'll be opening across the country. And then we'll have a store within a store at select Macy's locations throughout the country itself. So there's a lot of different areas that, we engage customers, including businesses. We have a full service business to business channel that we have, reaching out to businesses for business gifting that we do. And as we go through and have a lot of new products, we can cater to that community, such as personalizing a gift for a business or even for the individual consumer. One of the new products that we have this year is a personalized Christmas ornament that can go and paired up with a gift basket. And so that allows you to do a little bit of a personalized touch for your recipient that you're sending a gift to. But all that's available at www.harryanddavid.com.
Oh, that's great. You could get lost for hours searching for the right gift, but we encourage folks to check it out. Well, Ned Ford from Harry and David, thank you so much for joining me today on the Oregon Business Matters podcast. There's a lot more we could unpack. Again, no pun intended. I'm really on a roll with those today. But I think we'll just let people do some exploring, and we will no doubt visit with you again in the future. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. The Oregon Business Matters podcast is a production of Oregon Business and Industry, your statewide chamber of commerce. And our episodes can be found on all the top podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, YouTube. And of course, they're available on our website with a host of additional information, OregonBusinessIndustry.com. Thank you, Ned, and thank you, listeners.